You might enjoy spending time with your drama-loving friend, but your brain still pays the cognitive price afterward. The emotional labor of managing their needs drains your mental resources either way. There's another hidden cost that's harder to measure: opportunity cost. While you're processing that negative interaction, you're not generating new ideas, solving important problems, or learning new skills. For entrepreneurs and creative professionals, this cost is especially high since your ability to generate ideas and solve problems creatively is your most valuable asset. The financial impact becomes clearer with simple math. If you earn $50 an hour and lose 2 productive hours after an interaction with an energy vampire, that's $100 lost. If this happens 3 times a week, that's $15,600 a year, probably more than most people spend on professional development. For teams, the cost multiplies. When one energy vampire drains 5 team members, the organization loses 5 times the productivity. Organizational psychology research shows that one toxic team member can reduce group productivity by up to 30% and increase turnover in tensions among other employees by 40%. Why do complainers affect your work performance so dramatically? Research shows they trigger a stress response in your brain. When someone dumps negativity on you, your brain treats it as a threat. Your body releases cortisol, which interferes with your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for focus, planning, and complex thinking. What makes this especially dangerous is that most of us don't connect these dots. When you're staring at your computer, unable to focus after lunch with a toxic coworker, you might blame yourself for lack of discipline. But sometimes the real problem isn't your habits, it's who you're spending time with. The cost is clear, but what can you actually do about these relationships without creating more drama? Because cutting people off isn't always possible or desirable, especially with coworkers or family members. Fortunately, there are practical strategies that can help you protect your productivity without destroying relationships or creating new problems. Setting boundaries that work. What if you could protect your productivity with just a few carefully chosen words? I've found that the right phrase at the right moment can save me hours of mental energy. That's what boundary setting is all about. Using simple, clear communication to protect your time and focus. Setting boundaries is your first line of defense against energy vampires. Think of boundaries like a fence around your mental garden. They clearly mark where your responsibility ends and someone else's begins. I know setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first. Most of us worry about seeming rude or creating conflict. I used to struggle with this constantly. Someone would start complaining, and I'd sit there nodding for an hour because I feared ending the conversation. Maybe you've felt that too? Setting boundaries doesn't have to create drama. There's a crucial difference between aggressive and assertive communication. Aggressive, you're being so negative and it's ruining my day. Assertive, I need to focus on this project right now, so I can't continue this conversation. The first creates defensiveness, while the second clearly states your position. Most people actually respect clear boundaries, even if initially surprised. Let me share some effective scripts I've personally tested for politely ending negative conversations. I hear you're going through a tough time. I need to get back to work now, but maybe we can continue during lunch. This acknowledges their feelings while setting a time limit and postponing to a specific time when you can give proper attention. I notice we've been discussing this problem for a while. I care about you, but I don't think I'm helping find a solution. Have you thought about talking to appropriate person resource? This works with chronic complainers by gently pointing out the circular conversation while offering alternative support. For interruptions during work, I only have 5 minutes right now before I need to return to my project. Is that enough time, or should we schedule for later? This gives them a choice while clearly stating your limit. For family members who dump negativity, I love you and want to support you, but I'm feeling overwhelmed. Can we take a break from this problem and do something positive together instead? This honors the relationship while setting a boundary around your emotional capacity. I remember when a coworker used to stop by my desk multiple times daily with complaints. After implementing these boundary phrases consistently for 2 weeks, our interactions transformed. She began respecting my focus time and even started coming to me with solutions instead of just problems. My productivity doubled, and surprisingly, our relationship improved. Beyond these scripts, several techniques can limit time with energy-draining people without creating drama. Try the meeting with a purpose approach. Instead of open-ended coffee dates with known energy vampires, suggest activity-focused interactions. Let's meet to review the Johnson proposal gives you a natural endpoint. Consider location limiting by meeting in places that naturally restrict conversation time. A coffee shop where you're working and can only take a short break works better than your office, where they might camp out indefinitely. Use time limiting by setting clear expectations up front. I've got a meeting in 30 minutes, but wanted to catch up before then. This creates a built-in exit strategy that doesn't feel personal. For chronic complainers, implement the complain once rule. Allow someone to mention a specific complaint exactly once, then redirect if they bring it up again. You mentioned that earlier. What else is happening with your project? Redirecting conversations away from negativity is a valuable skill. Try the yes and pivot technique. Briefly acknowledge what they've said, then move the conversation in a productive direction. Yes, the deadline is tight, and I'm curious about your approach to the first section. Have you started yet? Ask solution-focused questions when someone starts complaining. What do you think would make this situation better? Or, what's your next step to address this? These nudge toward problem-solving rather than problem-dwelling. The wider perspective technique helps when someone is stuck on a single issue. Looking at the bigger picture, how does this fit with your overall goals? For immediately shutting down negative conversations, try, I understand you're frustrated, but I need to focus on solutions right now. What specific help do you need from me? This acknowledges feelings, states your boundary, and redirects toward action by forcing them to either clarify a request or admit they're just venting. Consistency matters more than perfection with boundaries. You don't need perfect wording. What matters is regularly communicating your limits. People learn from patterns, not single interactions. Good boundaries actually improve relationships long term. When you're clear about what you can and can't offer, you avoid the resentment that builds when regularly overriding your own needs. These techniques effectively protect your time and mental energy without creating unnecessary conflict in most situations. But what about toxic relationships you simply can't avoid, like with coworkers you see daily or close family members? Sometimes boundaries alone aren't enough, and you need additional strategies to protect your mental energy. Emotional detachment strategies. Is it possible to sit next to an energy vampire all day and still protect your mental energy? I used to think it wasn't. I worked beside someone who complained constantly for 2 years, and at first I went home completely drained every day. But then I learned some emotional detachment techniques that literally saved my sanity. Emotional detachment is basically creating mental space between you and negative people when you can't physically avoid them. This becomes super important with coworkers, family members, or others you have to interact with regularly. You can't just cut them out of your life, so you need a different approach. I want to be clear about something important. Healthy detachment is very different from unhealthy avoidance or emotion suppression. Healthy detachment means you stay present and engaged, but don't absorb the other person's negativity. You recognize their emotions without taking them on as your own. Unhealthy avoidance means shutting down completely or pretending problems don't exist. Suppression means pushing your feelings down where they'll cause problems later. The first technique I want to share is called the gray rock method, and honestly, it changed my life. The basic idea is to make yourself as interesting as a gray rock when interacting with energy vampires. Keep your responses minimal, neutral, and boring. Don't share personal information, show strong emotional reactions, or engage with their drama. This works because energy vampires feed on emotional reactions. They want to provoke response, whether it's sympathy, anger, or shock. When you give flat, neutral responses like, that's interesting, or I see, without emotional investment, they eventually look for more reactive targets. I tried this with a drama-loving coworker. When she'd share outrageous stories designed to shock me, I'd just nod and say, "That sounds challenging," in a neutral tone. After a few days, she stopped coming to my desk altogether. 6 months later, a colleague asked why this person never bothered me anymore when everyone else was constantly drained by her. The gray rock method had fundamentally changed our dynamic without any confrontation. Visualization exercises create effective mental distance during difficult interactions. Imagine a clear glass wall between you and the energy vampire. You can see and hear